If you ask somebody if they're depressed, no, I'm not depressed. But if you ask them if they're burned out, absolutely, they are burned out. There's not really that much difference in symptoms between depression and burnout, like very few. And I'm willing to guess that if someone were to be asked more pointedly by a psychiatric professional, like, well, what about this? Have you ever had, thoughts of suicide? People will say no, but I got to be honest, I would have said no when I was depressed. And I didn't know I was depressed, but I certainly had thoughts of like, I'm going to lick a couple of shopping cart handles during COVID and maybe I can go into the hospital. And that sounds like a really nice break. And that's passive suicidal ideation. You don't realize it. You don't think that's what that is. But, when you kind of have those thoughts of like, I really just want to go to the hospital for a little while so I can take a break. It's a sign that you should probably go get some help.
Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, a podcast designed to inspire single parents. Here you'll find resources from self-care to finances to parenting and everything in between. Discover what it takes to thrive. Let the stories inspire you to what is possible. Before we start the next conversation, I want to invite you to check out my amazing book, The Gift Inside, a powerful guide for healing your body, mind, and soul. Reclaim your strengths and awaken your true potential. Whether you are navigating heartbreak or simply seeking deeper fulfillment, this book offers the tools to turn your struggles into triumphs. It is time to unlock the gift within you. Available now on Amazon, or you can check it out on my website www.irinashehovtsov.com. Hello and welcome to Single Parent Success Stories. Today we have a special guest, Liesl Perez. She has spent over 20 years in corporate marketing, launching one of the first generative AI prototypes, SDL Content Assistant, and leading corporate marketing teams at Mapbox, Hubilo, TTEC, and SDL. Her passion for unlocking human potential, diversity, and inclusivity led her to co-found Axis Integrated Mental Health in 2020 with her husband Liesl Perez. Since it opened its doors, Liesl has driven over 400% growth in 2023 through integrated marketing strategies. With her and her husband's leadership, the clinic has gone from 0 to 7 million in ARR, with 3 clinics and 40 employees, and given away over 400,000 in pro bono mental health care. Welcome, Liesl. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
Yeah. So please share with us who you are in your own words.
Sure. I'm actually the co-founder of one of the top startups in Colorado. Actually, we were named from Colorado Biz Magazine top startup of the year. We're also a Colorado company to watch. And we've done this by helping other people heal through our mental health clinics. And we actually combine psychiatry, therapy, and advanced treatments like ketamine, and also EMS under one roof.
Awesome. And how were you previously a single parent?
I was a single parent. Actually, I was woefully single. My kid's dad and I divorced when my son was 2.5 years old and my daughter was 6. And he decided to actually move out of state. So I wasn't just a single parent. I wasn't only parent for, the vast majority of their childhoods.
Yeah. What was the things you're struggling with when you were a single parent?
I think the single biggest struggle I had, and I didn't realize it at the time, was actually my mental health. And that's actually what led me to found this mental health clinic to help other people, because I just didn't recognize the symptoms of so many things that I had been going through: depression, ADHD, as it turns out, which I got diagnosed with at age 46. And also just having the energy to keep up with 2 kids, have a career, let alone dating. It was really a miracle that I actually met my husband at all. because I was just so busy with everything that was going on, maintaining a house, and keeping the finances afloat, really.
Yeah, yeah. So what kept you going? What was the catalyst that caused you to change and to start your company?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things. I think I spent actually a good amount of time in therapy after my divorce. I was in a relationship actually right before I met my husband that was intense, but also not good for me at the end of the day. And I had been in therapy even before I had gotten divorced, and then I decided to go back after that because it was sort of so devastating that I was like, I need to make sure that this doesn't happen again because I can't be like this for my children. My children need a full-time mom who's attentive and not wallowing in despair. And so I ended up going to therapy for a long time, and I realized that a lot of my motivation and a lot of the decisions I was making was due to people pleasing and trying to hustle for my worth, which I think every single parent does to some degree or another. And I think after, having gone through such a transformative experience with my therapist, and then also, I mean, things started to change, not just in terms of, my social life or my personal life or even the way I parented, but just because I wasn't so insecure about following my gut, I actually ended up making different decisions at work, which ended up getting me promoted, which ended up giving me a lot more freedom to not have to hustle so much. And so that gave me more time to spend with my kids. I was happier. And then I really was able to unlock more of my own creativity. And so that was the real unlock for me, was just realizing how much I was doing to please people and how much I actually knew that was my own wisdom and my own knowledge that I didn't trust before. I started trusting that.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. And you're so right. We have this tendency to people please because I don't know. I guess when we were growing up, children are to be seen and not heard from, and just do
Yeah,
the things that are.
and women especially. I mean, I think especially right now. I mean, we're recording this in December. I don't know how stressed you are, but of course, as always, women do all the work, but another guy gets the credit, which is Santa, right? So I'm losing my mind trying to manufacture the holiday spirit for everybody. And, actually, I decided this year that I was actually going to cut back a little bit because it's just too much for me to manage with everything else that's going on. So, but yeah, we are socialized, especially women are socialized to take care of other people, and your value and your worth is based on your ability to take care of other people. So,
Yeah, you're so right. If what advice would you give to your younger self?
go to therapy earlier, get on
Oh,
meds.
really?
Yeah, take care of your depression. And because I mean, and I honestly, I actually mean that. If I had gotten help for my depression, if I had recognized my depression as depression, um, I think I probably I would have been a better parent. I would have been a better everything, right? And I think that's something that is there are days where I will kind of spiral into this like, oh, if only I had done this sooner. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter as long as you get on that journey. That's what matters. And because getting on that journey not only made me a better parent for my kids, but it also inspired them to understand that we all go through hard days, and some of us go through harder days than others. And it's not a personal flaw to have a malfunctioning organ. Everybody who has asthma reaches for albuterol when they have an asthma attack, right? Everyone who has diabetes is taking insulin. The brain is an organ just like any other organ. It can malfunction. You can take care of it. It's totally treatable, and it's worth it. So that's what I would tell my younger self.
You're so right, but I think the brain is maybe difficult for people to understand because it's not like a physical symptom. Although you
Yeah.
experience emotions, we experience those difficult days, like you said, and sometimes it's difficult to pinpoint, oh, I have this thing and I gotta go get that stuff. It takes time to notice. And
Well, let me tell you something though. I'm a marketer by trade, and marketers are the most cynical people on earth because we have data. And so, um, I can tell you something about my marketing programs and why I was able to drive 400% growth. I realized that when I use the words depression in any ads, nobody ever responds to it. But if I use the word burnout,
Mhm.
everybody responds to it. If you ask somebody if they're depressed, no, I'm not depressed. But if you ask them if they're burned out, absolutely, they are burned out. There's not really that much difference in symptoms between depression and burnout, like very few. And I'm willing to guess that if someone were to be asked more pointedly by a psychiatric professional, like, well, what about this? Have you ever had, thoughts of suicide? People will say no. But I got to be honest, I would have said no when I was depressed. And I didn't know I was depressed. But I certainly had thoughts of like, I'm going to lick a couple of shopping cart handles during COVID and maybe I can go into the hospital. And that sounds like a really nice break. And that's passive suicidal ideation. You don't realize it. You don't think that's what that is. But, when you kind of have those thoughts of like, I really just want to go to the hospital for a little while so I can take a break. That's it's a sign that you should probably go get some help.
You're right. So how do you help people? What kind of things do people come to you with?
When I went to found a mental health clinic, I really took a look at the customer journey, and that's what I'm trained in, right? So I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not a psychiatrist or a therapist. I do treat people though, because I am certified in TMS. But what I did is I took a look at my own customer journey when my child got diagnosed with ADHD and anxiety at age 13. And, it took us 3 months to get onto a psychologist's schedule. And I had to go through my insurance, which I wasn't really totally sure if they were going to pay for. Most insurance plans don't pay for the psychological testing. They certainly don't do it for adults. And then after I went to the psychologist, I'm like, great. So we have a diagnosis. So what are we going to do now? And they were like, well, you're going to go to your pediatrician. And I'm like, why am I going to my pediatrician? Is she a specialist in mental health? And she's not, but that's the way it's done. And so she's, well, she needs to get prescribed, methylphenidate, which is methamphetamine. And as a mom, I was like, is it a good idea to give a 13-year-old methamphetamine? That sounds like something I'm trying to avoid. And you're telling me that she needs to get prescribed this. And so, I mean, the whole mental health journey is super confusing, right? As a patient, as for anybody who's listening to this, you have to know sort of what you have. Like, are you depressed? As though you went to med school and you know how to diagnose that. You're probably going to Google it, which is, by the way, not a great way to be diagnosing any mental health condition because you're guaranteed to have all of them if you Google it. But you have to know what you have, so you know whether or not you're going to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or a psychotherapist. And most people don't even know the difference between those things. Then you have to figure out if insurance is going to pay for it. And then you're going to have to figure out even if what treatment you need, because a lot of these doctors and psych professionals, and I've interviewed a ton of them as I'm hiring for my clinic, they don't know anything about the newest treatments out there. They just want to prescribe pills all day long. And, ketamine treatment can be covered by insurance if it's Spravato, if it's the nasal spray, TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, absolutely no drugs, all magnets, and it works really great. But if you're a psychiatrist that went to school 20 years ago, you don't know about any of these things, right? So all of the burden of your mental health care is on the patient, and they're unqualified. They don't even understand what's possible out there. So what I really do to help patients is say, if something is wrong, come see us and we'll work with you, and we'll work with you on the plan. We already have the therapists, we already have the therapies. We'll decide with you what's your goal? What's your lifestyle? Do you want to take meds? Do you not want to take meds, right? In a lot of cases, you have to take meds in order for insurance to cover it. Okay, fine, right? But we're really giving them that information, and we're empowering them to make those decisions to help them feel better and live their best life. That's really what we do. How we do that is a grab bag of things depending on who you are.
Very well said. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. What makes you happy?
Oh, what makes me happy? You know, I had a full-on nervous breakdown about 3 years ago. My best friend had died. She was also my boss. We were so close that I did the eulogy at her funeral. Um, I was working at a really toxic company. I had left the company that I had been with for 9 years because I just couldn't bear it anymore because she wasn't there. And anyway, long story short, and then COVID happened because it wasn't fun enough. 4 kids in 4 different schools. And the thing that's always made me happy, despite all of that, was what I realized was I really liked unlocking human potential. I love seeing the transformation of someone who didn't realize how absolutely amazing they are and get them to realize that. And I've actually, when I thought about, all the things I really enjoyed in my career, I enjoyed helping people. And so seeing that transformation is what I live for. And now I'm doing it at scale. It's just not in a corporate environment. It's in a way that, helps way more people. In Colorado, there are over 250,000 people who have serious thoughts of suicide. 250,000, okay? And we rank number 50 for the prevalence of mental illness and number 46 for overall mental health. So I've got a big goal on my plate for 2025. I want to help as many of those 250,000 people in Colorado get high quality mental health care so that they don't kill themselves. Because those people are parents, those people are friends, those people are teachers, those people are cops, those are people we need in our society, in our community. And so that's really what makes me happy. The seeing that impact is what I live for.
Awesome. I love it. Yes, you're so right. Thank you. Thank you. What kind of advice would you give to single parents who are starting the journey of single parenting?
Oh, I've been dying to answer this question, I think probably my whole life. Because I remember what it was like when I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? How am I going to have the energy and the time and to really raise these kids well? Um, and the biggest piece of advice I can say is get into therapy. Really take care of yourself. You cannot take care of your kids if you are not yourself in a good place. And invest in that. I think we are socialized to invest everything we can into raising our children, and that's not always a great it's not a great way to live, and it's not good for your children, and it's not good for you. So invest in yourself first. I think the other thing I would say that's really, really important is your kids are going to be fine. And also, your kids are going to make choices that are going to piss you off, and they're not going to be great, and it's not necessarily your fault either. Don't blame yourself for everything your kids do. They are independent human beings, and that is their journey. They have to make mistakes. If they don't make mistakes, they're never going to learn, right? And they're never going to grow as people. They're never going to reach their full potential. How many lessons have you learned that have turned you into who you are today? Don't deny your kids that experience because you're feeling guilty because you're a single parent. Right? Single parents are wonderful, contributors to society. They teach so many great lessons. A lot of the lessons I've learned now, running my own business, is because I can hustle and I can prioritize because I had to when my children were young. Right? Here's an example. I actually, because I traveled internationally for my job, I was an international marketer. And my headquarters was in the UK. I had to travel every 3 months to the United Kingdom. And so I had to have a live-in nanny. And the live-in nanny did everything from doing the laundry to, picking the kids up from school. But the thing I really enjoyed was cooking. So I always did all the cooking. And that's how I prioritized, right? I did the things I liked and that I enjoyed with my children, and then left it to other people to do other things. So don't feel bad when you have to outsource. Don't try to do it all yourself. And know that you are awesome and you are the single most important thing in that kid's, care team, and you need to take care of that asset well.
Yeah, I think we try to do so many things at once, and then we find ourselves in the burnout. So it's important to ask for help. And I love how you said you did the things you loved and you outsourced all the other stuff to people who
Yes.
do a better job at it.
Yeah. And I realize that that's not always, I mean, I was in a place of privilege to be able to do that. Um, but true story, I actually rented a room out in my house just to be able to afford that. I made a lot of compromises that didn't seem comfortable at the time, but what it was important because my children depended on that. And I'm much more relaxed today about it all. But yeah, there was a lot of experimentation that happened during that time. But I'm glad I did, because it really did help with making sure my kids were well cared for.
Yeah, yes. What is the most important trait to instill in a child?
Oh my gosh. I always love the quote that good parents give their kids roots to grow and wings to fly. And so I think a sense of independence is one of the things that is most important for raising children. And you have to make sure you're not psychologically in the place where you're depending on your child to fulfill your emotional needs, because that stunts their growth. Because then they're geared towards taking care of you, and that's not really great. That's not what I want for my children. I want my children to have options. I want the options that they want for themselves, not what I want for them. One of the conversations I've had recently with my children is, who's going to inherit the business when we pass on. And I've said, none of you are actually going to be inheriting the business, because that's actually, that means that we're going to sell the business at a discount. And that's not good for us, and that's not good for you, because at the end of the day, our jobs are to make you the most you can be. It's not to make you who we are. It's to make you who you are. And so if we were to sell you the business, that's our dream. That's not your dream, right? So I'm not, I think you guys need to go explore and find out what you need to do and what would make you happy, because it's probably not the same thing as what made, my husband and I happy, which was seeing all of these people grow. I hope they do something for society. I hope, it's something that's really meaningful to them. But this was our path, not theirs. So, they'll inherit some money, but not enough to retire at 24, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, yeah, you're so right. Sometimes parents want to live their life through their children, or get to do the things that they didn't get to do. But I love that, we all have our own individual journeys and individual things that we are here to create, to do. And it's not, I guess we have to look what children choose to do. It's their journey, it's their life. And another thing you mentioned also during the conversation, that give them ability to learn and grow. Don't steal that away from them. Like, we were working our own individual journeys, we were making our own mistakes, and we got to learn from them. Of course, it's difficult to see if children are making the mistake and you want to come in and save the day, but it's important to also let them experience that failure, I think, early on in life, so that when they get older, they're more easier to tackle the challenges.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the hardest thing to watch sometimes is seeing my kids suffer. When I know I can solve the problem, like I can turn it around, but I'm denying them the ability to see how strong they are. If I'm the one saving them, right? And that's something, I sent my daughter away for a year to go study in Spain. And she was remarking about how her host family actually, her host brother, who was the same age as the host mom would like crush up the pills so that he didn't have to swallow them, and put them in the juice and everything. And she kind of remarked, she's like, "Mom, you would never do that for me." And I'm like, "Nope." certainly would not, because you're old enough to take your meds and take care of your health. And I implore you to do that, because there will be one day where I am not there for that, and you need to learn how to know. You need to know. And when she came back from Spain, she was kind of miserable at times. She was homesick. She didn't want to stay. It was just very weird. And then she came back and she says, you're absolutely right. I didn't realize how much I could actually do on my own, And so she was launched, ready to go to college after that year. And she cooks her own meals now, and she's a quantitative finance major, and she calls her in her own doctor's appointments. And but those are things that you can start getting kids to do for themselves, and you should start letting kids do for themselves, because at some point they're going to be leaving the household. And I can't tell you how many patients I've had when I've been treating them for TMS. It's been adulting 101, because I have them for 6 weeks. So I have to teach them about insurance. I teach them about, what do you do when your car, dies or anything like that. They can't ask their parents, or they're embarrassed to ask their parents. And so they ask us. And I just think that there's an opportunity, even from a younger age, for kids to start learning how to call for their own doctor's appointments and be responsible for their health, and know that that is their jobs to do that.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think is happening age to start doing so?
For my daughter, I started her calling her own doctor's appointments at 15.
Mhm.
And same with my other kid. They are calling in their psychiatric appointments, because they go see a psychiatrist every 6 weeks or so. So I'm having them actually go and call their doctors, and setting up the appointments, and letting me know when they need to pick up their meds and things like that, and getting them involved early in taking care of their lives. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you.
I'm sending my two younger kids who are home right now. They get a auto deposit every single week for their allowance, and then I'm giving them a W-2 form at the end of the year and making them fill out their taxes. So, so yeah,
Awesome.
that's the kind of mom I am.
What's your superpower if you had to pick one?
My superpower. I think my superpower is being able to see the potential in everyone, and helping them unlock it. And that's why I'm in the business I'm in, because so many people come into our clinic and they are broken, and they want to end it all. They're distressed, and they don't even see how awesome they are. And those people have turned around and have actually not only healed, they've used their experience, the worst days of their lives, to help other people. And so they're helping me with this movement to try to help these 250,000 people in our state to feel better, using their own experiences. And I think that's really beautiful, in so many ways. It's not really about me. Like, by myself am not going to help, heal 250,000 people, but I can inspire other people to see how their experience, which they thought was going to end them, could actually be used to bring life to others.
Yeah, you're so right. Sometimes when we are in the dark, we don't see the light, but if we choose to be in that space and then come out of it, we can inspire others to find their own inner light and transform.
Yes, especially single parents, because you have, such an intimate connection with your children, and you're seeing this person develop. And when you think about seeing that person develop, and then you're seeing how other people have developed, you can really empathize with them, and bring and see the divinity in everybody, right?
Yeah. Any book that inspired your journey, anything memorable that you can recommend other people should read?
Yeah. There's a lot of really great books that I've read. Traction was one of them. Actually, a lot of the books I've read were for my own personal journey. And one of them was Will I Ever Be Good Enough, which is a book for moms or for women who have had narcissistic mothers, actually women and men who have had narcissistic mothers, which I grew up with a very narcissistic mother, which is why I was people pleasing all the time. For business books, Traction is an absolutely wonderful, business book. There's also another book that I've read, and actually you can even watch the TED Talk, and I think it's really important for my career and also for the treatment plans that I actually ended up helping create, because storytelling is one of the most important skills that people can have, especially the stories they tell about their own lives. I've read a lot of books from Nancy Duarte, and I've watched her TED Talk about the secret structure of great presentations. I've actually worked with her company to build brands. And so I just think all of her books have been incredibly helpful for me in not only creating amazing stories for companies, but also creating my own story. And now I create stories for other patients. And that's part of our treatment protocol. It's kind of the secret sauce for some of our treatment protocols for TMS, which we do very differently than other people because of the storytelling.
Oh, wow, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Being able to, devise new stories, because our past does not define our future, and you share with people who you treat how to create a better story for themselves.
Yeah, well, and we've had people cry, like they just couldn't believe that was their story. We've had people really, like, they've shared their story with their family members, and they were like, "This is who I am," and I didn't realize it, But when you have somebody for 6 weeks, 30 minutes a day, you get a lot of time to figure that out.
Yeah.
We see TMS patients more than their therapists do and their psychiatrists do. So we ended up having these very deep conversations, and we actually end up sharing that, especially if they're doing therapy and treatment with us. Their entire care team understands who they are. So,
what is TMS for people who've never heard about it?
The transcranial magnetic stimulation, that's what TMS stands for, actually uses about half a Tesla of electrical energy that's concentrated in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which is a lot of big words, but basically this side of the brain is the side that after MRI technology got really good, they noticed that there's a certain area in this part of the brain that depressed people have underactivity in. So the magnet actually stimulates that area of the brain, and over 6 weeks, it starts to stimulate new synapses and new synaptic growth. Because the old model of depression is really like, oh, you just don't have enough neurotransmitters, so we're going to give you a bunch of pills to increase your dopamine or serotonin or whatever works for you. Which, by the way, antidepressants only work for 35% of the people who take them, and that's after a $40 million trial study called STAR-D that investigated the impact of antidepressants. So most people are actually treatment resistant, like 65% of people are. So with the magnet stimulating that part of the brain, it's no longer about the neurotransmitters, it's about the synaptic growth. Now, on this side of the brain, on the right side of the brain, this is the part of the brain that is actually, governing anxiety. And this part of the brain is actually overactive. So for a lot of people, you have comorbidity of depression and anxiety because you have under stimulation on this side and overstimulation on that side. The magnet actually, we run an inhibitory procedure, and that actually slows down that side of the brain. And so we're balancing it out and increasing the communication between the left and the right side of the brain. And that's what actually decreases the depression. When you combine it with other treatments like Spravato, which is the ketamine therapy spray, people can be in remission from depression for much, much longer and much more effectively than just pills alone. And it's drug-free, and it's covered by insurance. We just actually got a 15-year-old covered EMS. And so we are actually able to manage the polypharmacy and reduce the amount of meds that, teenagers are on with this treatment.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you explained it very well. So it's the magnetic stimulation of one side of the brain that can reduces depression, and the other side to do something else as well, which improves anxiety or get rid of anxiety and that connection that we have. Sometimes, yeah, we are so disconnected. We only use one side of the brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here you creating that. So amazing. Thank you. Any fun projects you're working on that you like to share?
Well, really, I mean, my fun project is expanding, my clinics I'm hoping to get 10 clinics by 2027, and then going out of state and opening them in another state. So that's a pretty fun project in and of itself. Because it's not just about opening the physical locations. It's also about scaling, the business and the people and helping people grow. And our core values are peace, which stands for proactiveness. It stands for excellence, authenticity, curiosity, and empowerment. And so getting everybody to sing from the same song sheet is something that is, a challenge in and of itself, especially when you're dealing with this many people. So that's really my fun project that I get to do. And I mean, it's a privilege to be able to do this, to see so many people's lives transformed. I'm a producer as well. So I produce a lot of content. I produce the brand, interior design. Like my whole life is basically wrapped up in in getting these clinics into other people's, or access to other people. So.
Beautiful. I love that. And amazing goal to spread, to create more clinics and then expand even over the state. Awesome.
Yeah,
If
and
people would like to connect with you, yeah.
yeah, I mean, one thing I'm going to say too, everybody who's listening to this isn't just my goal. Everybody can contribute to this, and you can contribute to it by just taking care of your own mental health. Because when people see you taking care of your mental health, and they see the transformation, then it gives them space to do that. So, I really think that it's something that everyone that it can be invested in. It's not just me. It's a movement, really, at the end of the day, and
Right.
to make space for this. But
You're so right. If we help ourselves, we can make a world a better place by inspiring other people to help themselves. And
yeah,
mental health is like a silent killer or silent, but nobody talks about it. It's there, but nobody can brings it to attention because from our minds, everything else in our life is so dependent upon how we think, how we feel, how we lead our lives. It affects so many different areas. And yeah, I love the work that you are doing, and thank you for creating such an amazing meaning.
thank you, and thank you for giving me the space to talk about this. It's really wonderful to have you help me with this mission.
Is there anything I haven't asked you would like to share?
No, I think you've asked some really good questions, and if anybody wants to get in contact with me, really easy to reach on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email at heal@accessmh.com, HEAL. It's my email address, and I'm happy to help any single parent feel, reach their dreams. I coach people regularly, and I'm happy to coach anyone else if they want some of my time.
Awesome. We will put everything in episode notes. It's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you for the work that you are doing and healing people and giving them a second chance in life.
Yes, well, thank you as well. I do appreciate being able to talk to everybody. Have a great day.